Ever since video games have existed, developers have not only sought to make them entertaining through structure and mechanics, but more immersive and realized through the technology available to them. As much as they are developing games for the current generation of hardware, they are also looking ahead to the future, where advancements in computer technology will grant them more freedom to make the games they have always envisioned. While each generational leap has always resulted in better resolutions, faster load times, and smoother graphics, developers have sometimes tried to introduce a groundbreaking gimmick or a new method of play to further enhance the interactions within a certain game. Some past examples include Nintendo's crack at stereoscopic 3D graphics with 1995's Virtual Boy, their first foray into motion controls with 2006's Nintendo Wii, and Microsoft's goal to have your physical body as the controller with the Kinect in 2010. And shoehorning it further by bundling it with the Xbox One in 2013. Some of these were more successful than others, yet clearly showed that developers were always brainstorming and willing to take risks to shake up the formula. Now in 2020, with the 9th generation of consoles officially underway with the launch of Microsoft's Xbox Series X and S and Sony's PlayStation 5, video games look better than ever, with the promise of native 4K resolution at 60 frames per second and higher, support for high dynamic range and ray tracing, and solid-state drives capable of loading games extremely fast. As someone who has owned a PlayStation 4 for the past 3 years, and was satisfied with its first-party exclusives like Bloodborne, 2018's God of War, and Marvel's Spider-Man, I went with the PlayStation 5 as my next-gen console purchase. Yet amongst the launch titles that I had pre-ordered along with the console, such as Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, and Blue Point's remake of From Software's Demon's Souls, the game I was most excited to play on the PlayStation 5 was one that was already pre-installed, a little game called Astro's Playroom. Developed by Team Asobi, Astro's Playroom serves as the follow-up to 2018's Astrobot Rescue Mission, where it showcased what could be accomplished with the PlayStation VR headset by blending platforming gameplay and a full 360-degree perspective into one package. Although the sequel takes a more traditional route with its platforming gameplay this time around, the game's true star is none other than the brand new DualSense controller. Despite its sleek two-tone design, the DualSense controller may not look that impressive at first glance, as it is conservative with the design of the buttons and functionality of the DualShock series of controllers, with the touchpad and speakers returning from the PlayStation 4 version. However, while it looks like any other controller on the outside, it is what's inside that truly makes the DualSense a revolutionary piece of hardware. What sets the DualSense apart from previous controllers are new features like haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. Haptic feedback serves as the evolution of the rumble feature that has existed in past controllers by more accurately simulating the vibration of on-screen actions, and pinpoints them in specific areas of the controller with varying intensities. In Astro's Playroom, the haptic feedback can register something as subtle as the sensation of raindrops hitting his umbrella, or his footsteps leaving a distinct imprint within the controller, depending on the surface. This further extends to drastic vibrations such as the sensation of blades cutting through the ice as you skate across it, or the individual grains of sand hitting Astro as you trek through a sandstorm. The fact that the DualSense is able to distinguish one sensation from another and properly simulate them is truly impressive. The adaptive triggers, on the other hand, are a significant update to the L2 and R2 buttons by adding varying levels of resistance when pressing down on them. A few examples of this include using a bow and arrow, and the triggers giving more resistance the longer you draw the string, or using a minigun and feeling the excessive recoil under your fingertips as you push down. These new features, along with existing ones from previous DualShock controllers, such as the motion sensor, touchpad, and speaker, all culminate into a nifty piece of gaming hardware that enhances enhances the overall gaming experience. Admittedly, some features like twisting the controller around to mimic motion or blowing into the built-in microphone can feel really gimmicky on their own, but these sections are thankfully few and far between. However, these individual features are at their best when they work in tandem with each other, and that is where the suit power-ups in Astro's Playroom come into play. Each suit serves as a combination of 2 or more features from the DualSense controller that highlight how they function in terms of gameplay. The frog suit in Cooling Springs utilizes the motion sensor to tilt the frog in each direction, while the adaptive triggers help to gauge how much pressure is needed to bounce higher, almost as if you are pressing down on an actual spring. The monkey suit in GPU Jungle utilizes the motion sensor to alternate each of the arms forward. The adaptive triggers both give a satisfying click when grabbing a handhold and help the player account for how much pressure is required to grasp the more fragile ones. The ball in Memory Meadows makes great use of the touchpad as you swipe along to influence its momentum and direction, and the haptic feedback accurately simulates the feel of each terrain as it rolls over them. Last but not least, the spaceship in SSD Speedway utilizes the motion sensor to tilt it towards a certain trajectory, and the adaptive triggers operate each of the thrusters, which gives off a satisfying rumble underneath your fingertips as you fly through space. Although the way these sections play out are rather particular and probably won't set the precedent for how future games will actually be controlled, this is nevertheless a fine demonstration of how much of a difference the DualSense controller makes. In any other video game in the past, these sections would feel standard, but the sensory enhancements that the DualSense brings, especially with its haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, creates a stronger connection between yourself and the interactions within the game. It strips part of the gamification away by making it feel as though you are actually blasting away in a spaceship or pressing down on a spring to propel yourself higher, and those moments ultimately lead to an immersive gaming experience that many have strived for but few have succeeded in. Although Astro's Playroom as a whole is woefully short, as the game only takes 3 hours to complete and an additional hour to collect every puzzle piece and artifact, what it accomplishes in such a short time is nevertheless impactful. Along with being a top-notch 3D platformer and a celebration of PlayStation's history, the game does an admirable job showcasing what the DualSense controller is capable of and is much more successful in its execution in comparison to what 1-2 Switch tried to achieve with the HD Rumble and motion sensor of the Nintendo Switch's Joy-Cons. Also, it didn't help that the game was sold separately for $60. What the hell, Nintendo? For this reason, Astro's Playroom is a one-of-a-kind experience that everyone should try and is well worth playing for those who happen to own a PlayStation 5. Additionally, the way that this game takes full advantage of the DualSense's features greatly opens the possibilities of how they can function within other games, and most of the PlayStation 5's launch lineup have done so in one way or another. In the opening cutscene of Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, the controller vibrates to accurately simulate the light bounce of the New York subway train cruising over each section of the tracks. The haptic feedback in the Demon's Souls remake, meanwhile, varies in intensity with every strike that your character deals or receives, making the combat feel more weighty and each life or death engagement all the more nerve-wracking. However, the best utilization of the DualSense's features has surprisingly been in this year's Call of Duty, as each of the 28 weapons in Black Ops Cold War has its own haptic feedback and trigger intensity depending on its recoil and heaviness. For example, aiming down sights with smaller weapon classes like shotguns and submachine guns give less resistance on the left trigger than if you were using larger weapon classes like light machine guns and launchers. At one point, I could feel the spinning blades of a nearby attack helicopter as I passed under it, and I stopped in my tracks, not because it was distracting, but because I wanted to let the sensation sink in before letting out a "that's so cool." Obviously, whether or not future games, especially from third-party studios, take full advantage of what the DualSense offers is ultimately up to the developers. Although studios most likely won't implement any features that are exclusive to the PlayStation 5 to save time and resources, as is reportedly the case with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the rare instances where developers do brainstorm new ways to enhance the experience are truly special and interest me the most. Arcane Leon's upcoming immersive sim, Deathloop, will reportedly lock the triggers if your gun is jammed, and that sort of meticulous attention to detail not only makes me excited to see how these games play, but also to see how they feel. Therefore, as I look forward to more releases on the PlayStation 5, my biggest hope is that third-party developers take advantage of the DualSense controller in one way or another, as it will enhance and elevate their games into a more immersive experience. The capabilities of the DualSense, as demonstrated in Astro's Playroom, serve as both a technological marvel in controller functionality and a standout feature of the PlayStation 5. Although the accompanying gameplay recording admittedly doesn't do justice to what I have discussed throughout this video essay, it serves as a further testament to how people must play this game themselves in order to truly experience what makes it so special. Regardless of the controller's somewhat traditional design, its new features like haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, and built-in microphone, as well as returning features like the touchpad, motion sensor, and speakers, bring a greater sense of immersion by bridging a stronger connection between what is happening on screen and your fingertips. It is representative of what can be truly achieved with these advancements in technology, and the prospect of seeing how developers could take advantage of these systems in future titles is incredibly exciting. I think it is fair to say that the future of gaming has finally arrived. Hey y'all, Alistar here. Thank you so much for watching this video essay on Astro's Playroom. So much time and effort went into writing, recording, and editing this in-depth critical analysis, and I hope you look forward to more video essays like these in the near future. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you are already subscribed, make sure to ring that notification bell so you are updated whenever future videos go live. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you guys next time. Jane!